President Hotep Dudes, representing Hotep Nation. Let's spit a torch for
Day in the life, woke up to what we didn't smoke last night. Got right, got high. I got hibachi leftovers, little steak, fried rice. I got fresh and select with the drive out. Swears like GTA 5 out. Swears like NBA Live. Weather tight, gorgeous outside. Ferrari horses galloping from the fortress. Now when you rollin', women notice, and some approach it. Some of them hoes and shit, some of them worth it, some of them sorcerers, but nobody's perfect.
Hope you had a great day.
South swinging, sure they think I'm drunk swerving. Nah, love, I'm driving like this on purpose. Oldest banging with my jerk lit. Now she rolling with a boss cause she deserve it. I seen this badass bitch in some high top whites. I seen this badass bitch in some high top whites. Then I met a badass bitch in some high top whites. Now I got a badass bitch in some high top whites. I'm a motherfucking race car. Nigga, you the motherfucking bait car. Don't even be on bad bitches radar. Share life, we in the house like baseboards. This kush I had to fly to LA for.
I feel amazing.
This wax I had to fly to the Bay for.
I'm telling y'all.
Bitch that I wish I could've stayed for.
Hope y'all having a
But that
great
ain't
day.
what a nigga get paid for. That's how it is. Wish that I could say more. Don't be
Come
like
on in,
that,
come
girl.
on
Keep
in,
it
come
player.
on in, man.
You know a nigga grind on major, but I be back. Keep your head the same way, girl. I put the story on paper and the weed in the air. Pretty cars, pretty bitches, I done had my share. But I had to tell y'all the one about the one that I met in the ones. I seen the badass bitch in some high top. I seen this badass bitch in some high top whites. I met a badass bitch in some high top whites. Now I got a badass bitch in some high top whites.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to say, I'm happy that I'm on Kick, because I can do this on Kick. YouTube would have sent me a cease and desist letter for even having the nerve to play music that wasn't my own on here. So, again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another epic episode of Hotep History Live. I am your host, President Hotep Dubes, representing Hotep Nation, as we know. Shout out to my people. Shout out to Hotepistan. I had a great time this week. I have an amazing week. When I tell y'all, I've been having an amazing weeks, back-to-back weeks. Whether it's me, building up my muscles, you feel me? I know y'all see I'm popping out my shirt a little bit, you know what I mean? The networking that I've been doing, just the developments with the Hotep History brand. Shout out to the brand consultant. You feel me? Like, it's been amazing. I really cannot, go. I can't speak about it enough. Honestly, I've been on a high for the past month or so. I hope you guys can feel it and see it when it comes down to the content. I'm extremely just grateful to be in the position that I'm in. I'm extremely grateful to have been, able to do what I've been doing. I cannot wait to share more and more of this history with you guys. I can't wait to, just keep building the brand, keep showing you all of these different things, because I could work every day, 24 hours straight for the rest of my life, and I probably still won't even scratch the surface as to how much Black American history is out there. So much of it is just gone unknown, lesser known, forgotten, never hidden. I tell people like that, I don't believe in hidden history, because if I can tell you about it or somebody can tell me about it, that means it's not hidden. And so I appreciate just everything that I've been able to do with the brand, and in my own personal life, just so many different developments that I've been having. It's just like great changes are coming, positive changes are coming. And so, yeah, this week, or today, let's start with today. I woke up, did my workout like I do. I need to eat a little bit more protein. I got to get some more protein in. Um, I have an announcement. I said it on another stream. Shout out to my brother HJ. I stood in for Uncle Hotep last night on Hotep's Been Told You, which is pretty much the flagship show for Hotep Nation. This was like the first show that was put out there. So shout out to Uncle Hotep. Shout out to HJ. Those is my brothers right there. So I stood in for Uncle Hotep last night. Had a great conversation. Shout out to Wendy O as well. I think we did our big one. I do. We talked about a myriad of topics and stuff like that. Had good laughs, just good vibes overall. And so I made a couple announcements on there. So I want to give you guys the Hotep History schedule, the official schedule. We know in the beginning it was a little bit of like 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, just random times. So we've locked down a time: Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Kick right here, the platform that you are watching me on. We are going to be doing Hotep History Live at 8 p.m. So Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, 8 p.m. Kick Hotep History Live. And then also, I am happy to announce, here we go, people, the Hotep History Podcast, okay? Hosted by none other than yours truly, President Hotep Dubes, and my little bro, my man Mac, a.k.a. Chitlin Poppy, a.k.a. Hotep Mac. It is going to be on Spaces every Saturday at 12 p.m., on Spaces. Make sure you are there. Make sure you beat us there and not meet us there. We're going to be having extensive conversations about Black American history. He's a history buff just like I am. I had a small little interview with him. My brand consultant did a background check on him to make sure that he was good for the brand. And if you get to watch it live, that's totally cool. But it will not be living on Twitter. I say again, it will not be living on Twitter. It will be on the Patreon. Patreon.com/Hotep History. Again, Patreon.com/Hotep History. If you want to have impactful conversations about the Black American ancestors and what they were doing, saying, building, and creating, this is where you want to be. This is the premier spot. You're not going to have these conversations or get these conversations anywhere else. You need to be at the Hotep History Podcast. And the fact that we have crowd participation, you will be able to hop up on stage, give your 2 cents, debate, converse, all of that. We're going to have an amazing time every Saturday at 12 p.m. And if you guys show up and show out like I know you can and will do, we'll have even more days added to the roster and onto that. So who knows? We may do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 p.m. Who knows? The world is our oyster. So again, 12 p.m. on Saturday, Spaces. Me and my brother Hotep Mac, we're going to be having great conversations. He's not Hotep Mac just yet, but I am slowly recruiting him into the nation, right? So this like poster, billboard, logo, however you want to call it, I made this myself in Canva. So hopefully you guys like the visual. I think I did a pretty good job. But of course, we don't just do this stuff by ourselves. So please, how was your day? Tell me how productive your day was. I hope you learned something. I know I did. I hope you were productive. I know I was. So shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to who we got in the chat so far. We got George Osei. Shout out to you, bro. Shout out to you. Come on in here. Make sure you're retweeting. Make sure you're sharing the link. Make sure you are sharing the live stream. We want as many people in here. George Osei, bro, you want to learn how to edit my videos? Go ahead and DM me on Twitter, bro. Let's see what you got. Let's see if we can make something happen. See if we can make some magic over here, man. Because I would love a video editor. I want a team of them. I want a team of research assistants. I want a team of, I need a whole league of Hotep historians. You dig? So, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cindy, for the graphic, for the compliment on the graphic. Um, so the song that I chose. Now, many of you know that Currency the Hospital is my favorite artist. He has an album dropping tomorrow, 8:30. That's the title. That's the date and the title of it. Uh, and I believe that he has a song and or a lyric for everything. And so, yeah, High Top Whites is one of my favorites. The beat is fire. The stuff that he was saying is fire. And I'll be honest and say it hit home. It hit home. It's always dope meeting new people, especially new special people. People who are genuine, people who, really, rock with you for who you are. And that's always important. And I want to let you guys know, I want to let the fellas know something. You are dynamic, you're great. You're great all on your own. But I promise you, you will never be as great as you can be without a woman that loves you by your side and wants to see and help you grow. It's extremely important. We talk about all of these different success stories, your Junius G. Groves, your Samuel B. Fullers, your Joseph H. Jacksons, and all of these guys. One through line that a lot of these men have is that they've always had supportive wives right there by their side. Junius G. Groves' wife was in the field literally tilling that land with him. They went from being poor sharecroppers with just 9 acres of loaned out land to literally being the number one producers of American potatoes. Not only the number one producer of American potatoes, to where they're selling and trading and doing all these different great things with the potato crop, but also in Canada and Mexico. So we are talking about the entire continent of North America. Junius G. Groves credits his wife and her support of him as one of the major reasons why he was as successful as he was. So I'm going to always implore you guys, always implore and encourage you fellas out there, okay? If you don't have one, get one. Get you a supportive woman who not only loves you, but loves to see you succeed and to see you win, because she knows that when you win, y'all win. And if you do have one, hold on to her for dear life, fellas. Hold on to her for dear life. That is extremely important. That's my message to you guys, or one of my messages to you guys tonight. I want you guys to understand just how integral having a helpmate, having a spouse, having a woman by your side is, how just extremely important that it is. You dig what I'm saying? So tonight we're going to be talking about money. We're going to be talking about rich folk. We're going to be talking about, the historical Black American upper class. A lot of people have these pictures and views of Black America to where you only really know about the downtrodden stories, the stories of oppression, the stories of degradation, the stories of mistreatment, and the stories of, what our ancestors went through at the hands of our ancestors' enemies. And while those stories are important to know, because without them, you don't know what enemy that you could be facing in the current day, in the 21st century. But that's not the end all be all to the Black American story. As a matter of fact, those portions of Black American history I don't even consider Black American history. So I tweeted this. I didn't have any pushback from it, thank God. What did I say? I said, unlike most, I don't highlight the oppression, the degradation, and mistreatment of our ancestors and call it Black history. That's not Black history. That's white history with Black characters in it. Over here, we highlight the good, the great, and excellent of the ancestors. And I mean that. I am personally tired of the mainstream histories of Black Americans being told as if that all the end all be all to Black American existence in this country was to be eternal second class citizens. That's just not fair to the ancestors. And what it does is to the contemporaries, the babies that will be listening to these stories, they're being demoralized. As a matter of fact, the moral of the stories that they hear is to basically show that if white people don't support you, if white people don't want you to win, if white people don't X, Y, and Z, then you won't. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Our ancestors were doing amazing things in every single interval, in every single facet of our history. Point blank, period. Full stop. You can find stories of success, wealth, ingenuity, innovation, invention, contributions into the country itself in any time period of this country. Before the country was founded, as far as the United States of America, and it was just the colonies. After the founding, I evoke names like James Fortin all of the time. All of the time, I talk about him because he was a 14-year-old boy fighting inside of the Revolutionary War. He was a prisoner of war during that war and was exchanged for, British POWs. So when it comes down to American history, I want it to be very clear at the top of the show. There is absolutely no way that you and I and everybody else gets to enjoy what America is today without black Americans. And I'm not talking about just our enslaved ancestors, because there were plenty of free black Americans through every interval of American history as well. I'm here to say it right now. Y'all can clip me up and put me all over the timeline and all that other stuff. America will be a second or a third world country without black Americans. I say again, America will be a second or third world country without black Americans. And I say that with my chest. I've been saying that for years, actually. And I stand on that because too many of American advancement was levied or brought or forged by our ancestors. You know who I'm about to bring up? Onesimus. Onesimus was a slave, but he was well versed in inoculation that was able to save the lives of countless Bostonians in the late 18th century. So we're talking about what, that may have been earlier. 1721. It's either 1721 or 1761. Either way, the entire city of Boston was wrought, okay? Everybody was catching smallpox, and it was spreading at alarming rates. And our ancestor, Onesimus, introduced to Massachusetts and in Boston inoculation, to where he was able to prevent countless Americans from catching smallpox. His ingenuity, his know-how. He was the only one in Boston. Okay, I just want to keep letting y'all know how deep this gets. He was the only one in Boston who caught smallpox and got rid of it. It was absolutely unknown and crazy to hear that you were able to catch smallpox and not die from it. It was unheard of. Benjamin Banneker designed and built the first clock in America. There were other clocks around the world, but as far as America goes, Benjamin Banneker, a black man, designed and made it. The layout of Washington, D.C. was partly created by Benjamin Banneker. The almanac was created by Benjamin Banneker. So when it comes down to the fabric, the tapestry of which American history is, the ancestors are woven tightly into that tapestry, and you can't escape it no matter what. The Gullah Geechee people, my ancestors, my direct ancestors on my father's side, introduced rice cultivation into this country. Rice. I eat rice all of the time. I'm sure you all eat rice all of the time. That is from Gullah Geechee culture in South Carolina. It's the reason why Carolina rice is a brand. Tobacco cultivation, also black American. Pretty much all of the crops, sugar, of course, cotton. So when we're talking about literally the fabric of American history, you do not have it without black Americans. Point blank, period. And so over here at Hotep History, we're going to be a constant reminder of exactly where you come from. Yeah, we'll talk about whips and chains. We'll talk about segregation. We'll talk about racism. We'll talk about oppression. We will. However, the way that we tell our stories, we inverse the way that we tell stories over here. We highlight all of the ingenuity and then mention the oppression and the degradation and stuff like that, as opposed to the mainstream where they'll highlight all of the oppression and degradation and maybe mention a Charles Drew or maybe mention a Bessie Coleman, maybe mention Duke Ellington or something like that. Like, no, we're gonna highlight that first and foremost because we are here to inspire, educate, and motivate. So before we get into tonight's festivities, I want to let you guys know that you come from a great lineage, one, and number two, repost the stream. I want as many people in here as possible. I need everybody up in here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do what I'm telling y'all to do and getting people in here. Because we need the chat full tonight. We need the chat full tonight. I want everybody's participation tonight. You dig? This is important. This is important. So, shout out to everybody that's in here. Shout out to everybody that's watching. Hold on. Let me share it in the DMs too. Share it in the DMs too. I need everybody in the building. I need everybody in the building. I'm not playing. I'm going hard. I'm telling you, ever since I got the battery put in my back to like really, really go hard with the way I'm supposed to be pushing, the way I'm supposed to be pushing the brand and all that other stuff, I'm not holding back. I'm not holding back at all. I need everybody involved. I need everybody involved. I want everybody up in here. I want everybody to know what we got going on in here, man. Everybody. Everybody. I don't care. I remember I was watching a video of Dame Dash chastising DJ Clue and a few other people. That he's like, yo, sometimes you gotta be annoying for your job. Sometimes you gotta be annoying. And hey, listen, if that's what I gotta do, if that's what I gotta be, whatever it is, hey, I'm doing it. Because it's all about success, growth, and advancement here. Point blank, period. And I want everybody to know just how important all of this stuff is. Okay? So, when it comes down to the history of the upper class black American, right? It goes back far. It goes back far. So, when we're talking about upper class black Americans, it starts at around, like I said, like the 18th century, like the 1700s and stuff like that. You had some in the 1600s, but it wasn't as prevalent. 1700s is where you're going to see the proliferation of it in the beginning. And there's a study, and I can actually go to that study because I was actually taking little excerpts from it and stuff like that. And it's a study by a man by the name of Lauren Schwenninger. Very peculiar name. Very peculiar name. And he has hold on, y'all. Sorry about that. I gotta log in. Hotep History. Yes, sir. All right. And he was speaking about the prosperous black Americans in the South. Now, we are going to be talking a little bit more about it tomorrow on the Hotep History podcast. But some of the first prosperous black Americans in the South were heirs to biracial union. So white father, black mother, sometimes enslaved, sometimes free, and they would inherit the money, and they would use that wealth to be able to build more wealth, buying more real estate and stuff like that. They were free, so they didn't have to worry about slavery, at least in that regard. And another half of the prosperous blacks during this time in the South were slave owners. We're going to talk more extensively about it tomorrow on the podcast, so make sure you guys are coming on through. to the spaces tomorrow. I'll be doing a lot more promo for from between now and noon tomorrow, and I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. So when it comes down to the South during this time, 1790 to 1880, there was the Upper South and the Lower South. So the Upper South would be Virginia, Maryland. It's another state that I can't think of right now. And then the lower, of course, is your Louisianas, your Alabamas, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. So in the Upper South, you had black slave owners. In the Lower South, you had some too. And so these black slave owners, we all if you did hear about black slave owners, you were told that that most of them, and it is true that most black American slave owners owned their family, because in many states and in many slaveholding states, if you bought their freedom, like if you actually freed them from slavery, then they would have to move. They couldn't live in the same state. They have to leave that state. So what the ancestors would do was purchase them as slaves and keep them as slaves so they didn't have to separate. That's true. That's going to be the bulk. That's going to be the majority of black American slave owners. Okay. However, there was a population of black American slave owners who owned slaves and used them for economic pursuits, just like everybody else. The whites, I was learning that there were like Asian slave owners. I still have to, look into that. I heard that from somebody that I respected, but I didn't fact check it just yet. They were saying like that's where the last name Lee comes from in black American lineages, so I'll look into that, because I'm definitely open to it. It's definitely something that wouldn't shock me, because that was the main economic driver of American prosperity at the time. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Asians and everybody else owned slaves during that time. So when it comes to the South, that's what you're going to see. Now up north, it was starkly different. There were some slave owners and stuff like that, but for the most part, again, you're going to see inheritances and stuff like that, and then using that money to go into like artisanship. You're going to see them going into like entertainment. You're going to see them going into like restaurants and other entrepreneurial pursuits up north. And they were more than likely, very in the Gilded Age sense, the old guard. These people have been wealthy before the Civil War, and I can show you pictures and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that. But so that was the overview. So down south, you're going to have a lot of industriousness. You're going to have farmers. You're going to have artisans, craftsmen, stuff like that. And then up north, you're going to see a lot more like entrepreneurship, real estate holdings, and stuff like that. For the most part, down south, the real estate holdings would be land. That was the big thing. Okay. So that's in the early days. It was a tumultuous relationship between these people and the enslaved black Americans. And we can go to my page here, because I talked about it extensively in a tweet, and I'll be able to show you guys what's going on. So I think contraband would be a good keyword to use here, and then we'll go. Yep, here we go. So this excerpt is from a book called Aristocrats of Color by Willard Gatewood. It's a great book. I definitely recommend you guys check it out. It's a great book. And so when it comes down to being freeborn and being enslaved, there was a major difference socially, especially when it comes to status. Okay, so the caption says, freeborn black American elite would insult former slaves by calling them contraband. Okay, so that term comes from the Civil War, the Union versus the Confederacy. It also actually goes back to the American Revolution as well. between the black patriots and the black loyalists. There were more black loyalists than there were black patriots, and that's largely due to a strategy error that George Washington had. George Washington didn't want black men in the army at first, but then he saw how, I want to say Cornwallis was his name. He saw how the British were recruiting a bunch of black men and saying like, hey, if you enlist in the loyalist side, we'll grant you freedom. So George Washington, seeing this, changed his tune and would allow a lot more black men to fight for the American side, for the Patriots. But by then the numbers were what they were, and so the majority of black American men during that time fought for the British. And when the British lost, they were considered contraband. Some of them went to Nova Scotia, some of them went to Sierra Leone, but many of them were just sent back to the plantations and where they were in America at the time, and that was considered contraband. They were considered contraband. So these freeborn black American elite, that is the term that they would use, a pejorative term that they would use for their enslaved counterparts. So the excerpt says this: the light-skinned black elite whose forebears had been free for one or more generations not only responded differently to emancipation than did slaves, but were also quick to draw distinctions between themselves as freemen and the former slaves as freedmen. So free versus freed, okay? As one slave recalled, the quote freeborns used contraband as a pejorative to designate newly freed slaves. In 1868, a young, fair-complexioned woman of free ancestry who was a school teacher in Frederick, Maryland, exhibited a condescending view toward black freedmen and poor whites that was probably typical of her class. Frederick, she wrote, was populated largely by, quote, poor, mean, sneaky-looking whites and by blacks who are, quote, ignorant and unfit for the society of many who have been blessed with any advantages of cultivation and refinement. Chat, this is going to be something that is a through line all throughout black American history, to where you have these elite black Americans looking down upon the lower classes and wanting to be closer to people of their ilk, people of their status, people of their class. They didn't appreciate, a lot of them didn't appreciate, but not all of them, because I'll say half and half. We can split them down the middle. Some did feel a sense of responsibility for their enslaved or poorer counterparts, but the other half were like, oh, hell no. Hell no. These people are not like us. We grew up completely different. If just imagine if you and your family have been free pretty much throughout all of slavery. Never even been in chains, never even understood how that even happened, or even cared, rather. Not that you didn't understand, but you just didn't care. That was just the way of life. There were black Americans who legitimately looked down upon them for being enslaved, like looked down upon these people for being enslaved. And not only did they look down on the poorer, less fortunate, or enslaved black people, they looked down on the white people in similar predicaments or conditions or status. It was all about status and class for a lot of these people. And when it comes down to nuance, right, of history, this is important to know. Because what happens is, like I said, when it comes to mainstream history, they'll have you believing that black Americans were inherently second-class citizens strictly off the virtue of them being black. And that's just not true. Now, of course, in general, that's true just because of the way the law of the land was, slavery obviously being an institution that was going to disproportionately affect black Americans, just because that was who made up the largest percentage of the slaves at the time. But the people on the ground who were living during these times, they were able to, look at them like, oh, they, we don't live like that. And these people existed, and they still exist to this day. Like, there are people like me on my mom's side, there aren't any slaves. You know, you'll have some when you go further back, but it's like when it comes down to let's just say about 100 years ago, well, not 100 years ago, but about when slavery was still going on, there's a lot of free Black Americans on my mom's side. Now on my father's side, it's a lot more enslaved people and things like that. But that's a thing for people. As a matter of fact, um, I'll let Hotep Mac get into the story about it. But when it comes down to his family, he says that it's a lot of free Black Americans, and he may even have a Black slave owner or two in his lineage. So that's a reality that I want people to understand and grasp. Shout out to Bert in the chat. So yeah, freeborn versus freedmen. That was very interesting. And what else? There was another excerpt that I had that kind of speaks to what's actually going on today. We talk about this stuff a lot. And so here we go. So this is the book I was telling you guys about. Aristocrats of Color, the Black Elite from 1880 to 1920. So we have prosperous blacks in the South, 1790 to 1880. And then again, when you're searching for primary sources and you're searching for scholarship, look, it picks right up from 1880 to 1920. So look at that. So 1790 to 1880, and then 1880 to 1920. We're talking almost 200 years of Black American elite. And so I say the Black American elite of the late 19th century behaved very similar to the elite of today. They understood the struggle of their poorer, less educated counterparts, but didn't do much to help because they enjoyed their exclusive lifestyle. Okay, so let's get into some of these excerpts here. All right, so here we go. Although the hardening of anti-black sentiment in the late 19th century encouraged white Americans to view blacks as an undifferentiated mass of inferior beings, like we said earlier, the notion of a stratified black society capped by a, quote, colored aristocracy, however vaguely or loosely defined, had existed for well over half a century before the appearance of the article in the Courant in 1883. Through their association with blacks in the struggle against slavery, some white abolitionists came to appreciate the significance of class among blacks and to despair of the elitism evidenced by some of their black compatriots. Quote, I mourn over the aristocracy that prevails among our colored brethren, Sarah Grimke wrote Theodore Weld in 1837. Now, the Grimke family was an elite family in Black America, okay? Quote, I cherished hopes that suffering had humbled them and prepared them to perform a glorious part in the reformation of our country, but the more I mingle with them, the fainter are my hopes. They have as much caste among them as we have, and despite the poor, and despise the poor as much, I fear, as their pale brethren. So she's speaking to the fact that there are a bunch of elitists. Okay, so when we're talking about the Black American elite, we're talking about a bunch of elitists who really look down upon these different people. Okay, despite their race, despite that there are racist people who really don't care about these rich black people at all. They're still going to have their racism and all of that, but they still wanted to make sure there was a separation between them and their lower class counterparts. 4 years after Grimke's observation in 1841, Joseph Wilson, writing under the pseudonym A Southerner, explored in considerable detail the question of a black aristocracy in a little volume entitled Sketches of the Higher Classes of Colored Society in Philadelphia. I have to look that up again. Aware that such a title was likely to prompt derision, Wilson nonetheless hoped to disabuse whites of their inclination to quote, regard people of color as one consolidated mass, all huddled together without any particular or general distinctions, social or otherwise, and to hold the, quote, errors and crimes of one as the criterion of the character of the whole body, end quote. So again, Those dudes over there who may be, committing crime or whatever they're doing, they're not us. Yes, we may look alike, but we are absolutely different. They wanted to draw that line in the sand. Okay, they wanted to make sure that there was a distinction, between them and the lower classes. All right. Such a view, he argued, imposed upon a black society. Imposed upon black society a degree of unity quite contrary to reality. All right. So we go to the next slide. Okay, so I just want to make sure it was continued. Okay, so the last sentence was focusing on the quote, men of fortune and gentlemen of leisure found among black Philadelphians. Wilson maintained that the principal grounds of social distinction were, quote, founded upon wealth, education, station, and occupation. So that's also true. You'll learn, especially with the episode 5 that's coming out. Episode 5 is all about this stuff, but I couldn't wait to talk about it because, like, listen, this stuff is important because it really does affect black America to this day. All right. So even if you were rich, you still had to be educated. You still had to have a particular standing in the community that you lived in. And you also had to have a desirable job. So I can show you guys, and we'll get back to that in just a second, but I can show you guys a depiction of the black elite. Let's see. Are they going to show me the cartoon? It's not in the search results here. But this was a cartoon. But we'll get there in a second. It was a cartoon of a young man who just got some money going to the door of an elite social club, because social clubs were huge in black America during the 19th and early 20th century. Social clubs were huge. Like, you know about, the Jack and Jill programs and stuff like that, but the black women of the elite, they would have like literary societies and stuff like that where they would come together and read books and, talk politics and be able to, create charities to help people and all those different things. And they had all of these exclusive clubs. So even if you had just come into money, you had to have other, criteria to pass in order for you to join them. And they were very exclusive. They didn't allow just anybody to come in. You having money wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, especially when it comes out to new money, what they would call, or the newcomers. So you had the old guard, which were families who were making money before the Civil War, and then you had the newcomers, okay, that were coming through making money after the Civil War. So when it comes down to the newcomers were shunned largely by the old guard. They thought them like the way that they handled money was different. The way that they handled flash and flair was different. So the old guard was very reserved. They didn't want to be gaudy. They weren't flashy. They didn't do any of those things. They focused on the exclusivity of their clubs and stuff like that. But the newcomers, and also the old guard didn't rock with the poor. Poor black Americans, they didn't even consider them. And if they did consider them, it was to of pity. They pitied the poor black Americans and stuff like that. But when it comes down to the newcomers are either newly freed slaves, escaped slaves and stuff like that, who were able to make money for themselves and their families after 1865. So they were more open to being flashy. They were more open to, exhibiting their wealth, wearing, very brighter colors and, being a little bit more altruistic and ostensive when it comes to their wealth. They wanted to show it off in ways that the old guard just didn't approve of. And the newcomers were open to, hobnobbing and socializing with the lower classes of black America, because they just was in bondage. So they understand the struggle. They have a closer relationship with the struggle. So again, it was a staunch difference between these people. And it's important for people to understand that, because when it came down to black American advancement, you guys know I talk about the 5 types of Black American the five types of historical Black Americans. You had you commercial, industrial, professional, intellectual, and political. Those are going to be your five main groups of Black Americans. When it came down to the top three, okay, so your commercial, industrial, and professional, those are going to be your doctors, your lawyers, your carpenters, your welders, your entrepreneurs. These people who are actually generating income and generating revenue inside of Black America. They're going to be a lot more inclined to deal with poorer Black Americans because their consumers are going to have less money than them, their employees are going to have less money in them, and so you're going to need to have that type of relationship with them. However, when it comes down to the political and the intellectual, it's much different because they don't really operate like that. They're getting paid from their mind. Those other three are getting paid from their hands. So when you looking at the stories of like a W.E.B. Du Bois, right? He's an intellectual. He's somebody that's making money from his mind. He's not making money from his hands, so he doesn't really have to, hobnob with poor people because he's working at a university. He's working at Atlanta University. So again, his students are going to have a little bit more money than the average person their age because their parents could have afford to send them to college. So people buying his books or people reading his studies and moving him up the ranks, and not to mention his social circle. He created the Niagara movement in 1905. Then he created the NAACP in 1909 because the Niagara movement failed. Booker T. Washington saw to that. Shout out to the Tuskegee Machine. And that's his whole spy ring and stuff that he had. So the intellectuals and the political, that's not something that they really needed to worry about because poor Black Americans weren't their concern. But overall, when you're talking about the entrepreneurs and you're talking about the people who actually going to be, building things and stuff like that, even when you talk about the black slave owners, to a larger degree than the white slave owners, they actually were in the field with their slaves because of the backgrounds that they had. So you'll have, we can search that right here. That's another one. Search the document. Show y'all exactly what I'm talking about. Urban, I think urban should be the best bet. I don't think the word urban came up too many times in the study, or did it? Yeah, it came up 25 times. Jeez. But in this study, he was talking about how, and I just have to find it. He was talking about how, like, when it came down to the black slave owners, they hired, particular types of people. Okay, so if I was, a bricklayer, I would then be hiring slaves to specifically lay bricks. If I was a shop owner, I would be hiring, or buying rather, not even hiring, I would be buying slaves to run my store, stuff like that. And I don't know why they don't highlight the words that I'm searching for. It makes it much more difficult. Then I got to scroll through the whole thing, but it's totally fine. So when it comes down to this stuff, the no, the black elite, they understood the differences of the things that they're actually going out and getting. And I understand that there's been a lot of nuance taken away from slavery and stuff like that to be able to make it more concise to talk about it. But it bears, talking about. So here we go. It says, to sustain their economic activities, free people of color acquired increasing number of slaves. Urban artisans, carpenters, bricklayers, stonemasons, and mechanics purchased black apprentices. Black apprentices, hod carriers and helpers. Merchants and business people bought haulers, carters, and stock boys. Plantation owners purchased house servants, cooks, mechanics, and field hands. By 1830, approximately 1556, 1,556 free black masters in the Deep South owned a total of 7,188 slaves. So again, that's the type of dynamic that they were dealing with back then. So specific occupations. Okay, so let's finish this excerpt. It says, while birth and family connection were important, they alone did not ensure a place at the top of the black social structure. Education in particular received a high priority, and among no people, according to Wilson, was the, quote, pursuit of knowledge was more honored than among Philadelphia's black upper class. While those in this class fully enjoyed the good things of life, they avoided extravagance and vulgar display. See? They practiced abstinence and sobriety, evidenced a concern for moral conduct that made them a quote, as chaste and temperate as any other body of the population, and adhered so strictly to the quote, nicer etiquettes, properties, and observances of the well bred as to, quote, render their society agreeable and interesting to the most fastidious in such matters. Also careful to remain, quote, aloof from the vicious and worthless of their race. So they, again, are avoiding poor black people. They're avoiding them. Okay? Upper class black Philadelphians led such, quote, virtuous and exemplary lives that they provided the black masses with a model worthy of emulation. And so even though they were very elitist in this is real elitism, by the way. I was having a conversation about elitism and in the modern sense, contemporarily 21st century black American elitism isn't based upon this anymore. It's just about being the biggest consumer that you are. As a matter of fact, it'd be poor people trying to behave like they're elites. Like, dog, you make 100 grand a year, bro. Like, you make 120 grand a year, like, and you're able to go on more than one vacation a year or something like that. You're not an elitist. You're not, bro. Like, let's just be honest. But because you get to buy more consumer goods than the average black American, you think you are some type of an elite. But this is how they view the elite. Like, even within the group of people having money, if you were, being super obnoxious and pretentious with your money and super flashy with your bread, you were considered lower class to them. Education, pedigree, background, occupation, all of these different things, it made a difference. Like, you couldn't just be a part of this elite group of people. They prided themselves on it only being a small amount of them. They didn't want a whole bunch of people. So whenever we say things in the contemporary sense, like, yo, everybody can't go and all of that stuff, like, dog, if you are not going to do what we are doing to get where we're at, don't worry. Like, don't even bother trying to socialize with us. It's not happening. It's not happening at all. So, let's see. Wishing to present a balanced view of the upper class, Wilson was careful to note that what he interpreted as its basic weakness, for him, the most unbecoming attribute of this group resulted from its division into numerous distinct social circles or cliques, each made up of individuals equally respectable and equal merit and pretensions, end quote, which were locked in competition, marked by displays of envy, hypocrisy, and deceit. These rivalries had on occasion lasted through several generations. The implication was that upper class blacks expended so much energy on social feuding that they had little left to devote to more worthwhile causes, such as uplift activities in behalf of the quote submerged masses. So again, they're so focused, just like in the Gilded Age, right? The old guard versus the newcomers, or the old money versus the new money. They're so wrapped up in trying to outdo one another that the middle and lower classes of black Americans are being ignored. They're being neglected. And so they're trying to prove to all of their, upper class, contemporaries, whether they're white or black, like, yo, our way of life, our background, our pedigree, our education, our occupations are way more important than these other people. And looking to be able to, get as much acceptance or fanfare or admiration or adulation for their station in life than to actually help black Americans, the submerged masses. Because, like, you got to understand, this is still the mid or early 19th century. Like, slavery is still going on. So it's like, dog, like, you could be helping black people right now. And they're like, oh, yeah, nah, we don't give a damn about that. So let's go. Next page. Let's see. It says, in many respects, The black upper class that evolved in communities, large and small, throughout the North resembled that in Philadelphia described by Wilson. Differences in environment, settlement patterns, and other factors accounted for variations in the size and character of this class. But in New York City, the Dutch influence was evident in the names and traditions of some prominent aristocrats of color as late as the opening of the 20th century. Fanny Barrier Williams, a native of Brockport, New York, who became a conspicuous figure in Chicago's black society, described herself as, quote, a mulatto in complexion, whose parents and grandparents were free people. In Brockport, her only association was with whites. We suffered from no discrimination on account of color or previous condition, she later recalled, and, quote, lived in blissful ignorance of the fact that we were practicing the unpardonable sin of social equality. Her sister Ella Barrier was for many years a teacher in Washington's public schools, and her brother George Barrier settled in Detroit and married into the prestigious Pelham family there. In Boston, the black Brahmins displayed in their values and lifestyles what was termed the influences of the, quote, New England ideals of home and society. So again, these people are literally doing their best to like live as close to what they think white elite people, not just white people, because it's not about being white, it's about being elite. And because of the influences that they have, like the Fanny Barrier Williams lady, she was black. Her parents were free black Americans, but she only associated with whites. She only talked to whites. And this actually reminds me of Jeremiah G. Hamilton, where he was like that. He couldn't stand, like he was the Prince of Darkness on Wall Street. He was just a psychopath. I ain't gonna hold you. Like being a black man on Wall Street, making all of the money that he had, like he had his own firm. He was making money hand over fist. He was able to finesse white men. Like he famously finessed white men out of $5 million. And that's not adjusted for inflation. That's $5 million during that time. So adjusted for inflation, we talking hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? And he was able to finesse white men. He sued white men. Like he went to court with Vanderbilt. Like he took Vanderbilt to court. So when it comes down to the shrewdness of these elite black Americans, like they truly did not care about race. They cared about status. So it wasn't just by virtue of you being a white person. It was by virtue of you being white and elite. So elite came before the whiteness. You dig? So that's just excerpts from the book. And we'll get to the video that started this whole thing off in just a second. But let's see. So here we go. And that's a little bit more contemporary. We're going to do this in chronological order. I think that's about it. We can go to the page now. All right, we can go to the video. And we'll go back to that in just a second. So this video is a part of like a documentary series that Dick Gregory had created. And it was speaking to just the difference in class when it comes to black Americans. So let's pause it, wheel it back. Will it? And let's go.
Life looks good, but we too are being pushed by our own people. Negroes with little education, with very little skill, are moving to Los Angeles from the South at the rate of 1,600 every month, but they're not finding the promised land. They bring problems with them. Finding jobs for themselves is one, and they create new problems for those who came before.
If you recall, at our last meeting, we discussed the problem of integrated housing, and we found out that almost 1,700 Negroes are moving into Los Angeles a month. By 1970, there'll probably be 1 million Negroes in this city. And I know that people are concerned about this. They may not talk about it very often, but I certainly heard them shudder in church when he said there'd be 1 million Negroes in Los Angeles.
We shudder because we're saying, in essence, the majority of these people are not like we are. And we felt that maybe some of us felt we left the South because we were getting away from this problem. We are part of this exodus too. But we are a little maybe embarrassed by the fact that here we're going to have a mass element come in that's going to create a tremendous social problem in the community, to which we find a great deal of difficulty in relating to.
Well, I don't want to sound like a do-gooder, because I really am not, and I'm somewhat of a snob. But I do think that with these people coming in who are not our intellectual equals, nor are they of our sociological bracket, they're not to be a handicap to us. They'll find their own level. Now, I do sound like a snob, but I don't mean it this way. But they're used to living a certain way, and they too might rise up above their origin and might one day be our associates.
The whole tone of this meeting is a second profession of being a Negro. And we are out here a while and we're working in our own field, and then we find out that here these same problems are following on the heels of 1,600 Negroes a month that come into Los Angeles.
So check. You see, like, they're literally coming to grips with this is during the Great Migration, obviously. And so they're in LA. Like he said, they're working in their own fields, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs. Like I said, the top three, your professional, industrial, and your commercial. And they're working in intellectual as well. And they are literally having a powwow. They're literally coming together to have a meeting about, what are we going to do about all of these Southern Black Americans coming up, and they have less education than us. They obviously have less money than us and all these different things. And of course, let's just be honest, they were worried about how that was going to make them look. And it's funny because when it comes down to the Jim Crow laws of the early 20th century, the Black American elite at that time believed that those Jim Crow laws were pushed and enacted to spite them. Because for the most part, those people weren't committing any crimes. They were making their own money. They had, whatever, positive relationships with white people and all this other stuff. So they're like, why? Like, basically, they're pushing these laws to basically group us together. And so the people who were calling out the elite, because I don't want y'all to think that, you're not going to hear from those people either, but the people that were calling out the elite were basically saying, you people just want to be close to white people. You feel me? Y'all just want to be close to white people, and that's the reason why y'all have this issue when it comes down to, the laws and all this other stuff. So the elite, of course, were pushing for more integration. As you can see with this group, they even said that here. They've been able to integrate in different intervals and stuff like that because, they have white neighbors. And so, yeah, it's crazy. We got to do what we got to do. But anyway, they're coming to grips with the fact that these people are going to make them, these people coming from the South are going to make these, they're in LA, so the West Black Americans look bad. They are having a difficult time acclimating and assimilating to what society is. Now, you'll see the dynamic among this group. You'll see that the men are a little bit more like stoic and like they're very more like staunch about, the issue being these people. And then you'll have the women, because she's a school teacher, and she's like, I'm somewhat of a snob and all this other stuff. And she's saying, they'll give them some time and they'll be able to, acclimate themselves and grow just as we did. Because there was a point when these people were coming up from the South. So again, the elitism is ridiculous, right? So your family may have come here 20 years before these people came here, 10 years before these people came here. So in those years, especially, you guys being 10, 20 years younger, you're able to go to school, you're able to, interact and do all these different things that, again, these people coming from the South, they haven't gotten to do yet. However, 1,600 Black Americans a month, chat. That's no small number, especially for one particular, one particular city or one particular neighborhood. Like, could you imagine right now almost 2,000 people coming into your neighborhood right now on a random Friday, coming into your neighborhood, being like, "Yo, where's the opportunity at? Where's the schools at? Where's this that and where's this at?" And then they don't have the same levels of education. They don't have the same levels of refinement. They don't have the same level of social etiquette and all these different things. Like, understand that as much as we want to just call these people elitist or coons or whatever you want to call them, like, yo, this is a viable concern. This is a viable concern because, like, again, they're bringing a lower standard of life. Now, me personally, I told you how I felt about the Great Migration. I do believe that it was a little bit unnecessary, especially when we're talking about economically. We showed the chart where it shows that it really didn't make much of a difference economically for black people to go out west or go up north. Now, as a grandson or a great grandson of the Great Migration, on my father's side, my great grandmother moved to New York from South Carolina, and raised her daughter, and then who raised my father. And then on my mother's side, my grandmother moved to New York and then raised my mother, and then who raised me. So it's like this is a thing that's happening. Of course, I'm a product of the Great Migration, and so I understand that. But again, when we're just talking overall, we're not talking anecdotes, we're not talking individual households or individual people. Like, the studies show that it really didn't make that much of a difference, and when it did make a difference, it was largely negatively impactful. It largely negatively impacted black Americans coming up north or going out west or going to the Midwest. When it comes down to Mississippians, they became Chicagoans, during the 1910 to the 1970 Great Migration. And we're talking half of the black American population leaving the South at the time, 6 to 7 million people. So this is huge. Like, yo, I can only imagine 1,600 people being my new neighbors. 1,700 people, 2,000 people a month. So you talking about over in a year's time, we're talking over 20,000 people in just a year in your neighborhood. Think about how congested your neighborhood would be, even in a big city like LA, Chicago, Detroit, Harlem, all of these different places. Like, even with that, because you got to understand the racial covenants and the deeds wouldn't allow you to sell to black people and all this other stuff. So just imagine the competition for jobs, the competition for school seatings and stuff like that. Like, all of this school placement, rather, like, all of this stuff is 100% going to bear on the current residents of these places. And then you add more and more time and more people, you can see the evolution of the black American ghetto. Now, of course, the FHA didn't make it any easier. They made it actually harder for black Americans to get housing. And that's where you get your project buildings, proposed to black Americans as a way to help them. But it is also a real estate structure that is going to cope with the amount of people that's coming in at one time. So when you're looking at whatever city you're from, whether you're from Detroit or whether you're from New York or wherever you're from, those project buildings were constructed partly due to how many people were flooding into that neighborhood over the course of a decade, 2 decades. You dig? And so, yes, we're gonna build these buildings that have hundreds of units in it to be able to cope with the amount of people that's coming into the city. And I told y'all, the way I view the Great Migration, it was actually pushed by northern, western, and midwestern factory workers, and then northern, western, and midwestern politicians looking for a customer base and an employee base, a customer base, and a voting base. The Democrats up north needed the support. The factories up north and out west needed support. Let's see. Check the chat out. See what we got here. Shout out to y'all for being on top of these bots. I'm gonna get some of my day ones to be some moderators in here because I know Kick got some crazy bots in here. So let's see. Anime manga fan says it's even a bad thing when people come with a lot of money. It's not just when a mass migration of it's not just when it's a mass migration of poor people. Californians going to other states during the lockdown disturbed the local real estate markets and made home prices skyrocket beyond affordability of the locals on their annual income. Hence why DeSantis blocked companies from coming to Florida because many of them bring workers with them instead of hiring locally because they don't want to train people. That's a very, very good point. And on the opposite side of that is what I spoke to. So when these labor agents came down to cherry pick and hand pick the best and brightest of the South, they were creating a brain drain from the South. So the people, just like Chat was saying, these people own businesses. These people they have more money than the average. These people, have things that are going to be considered assets culturally, and they're being handpicked, taken out of the South, and being courted to go up north, out west, or to the Midwest. And so all of the people that are left, they're still going to be following suit and stuff like that, but they would have had a more of an incentive to stay if the leaders or the pillars or the economic drivers of those places stayed in the South. So just like Anime MAGA fan was saying, it's like, yo, so if you have a bunch of rich black people leaving the South, their employees and all of that other stuff are going to follow them because they're following the prosperity. And what happens is all of these people are now going to be, supplemented in all of these different factories, all these different schools, all these different places of business, and now they're not going to be able to be viable in these places. The current residents are going to be, fighting tooth and nail for occupation. Not to mention, chat, we're dealing with European immigrants as well from World War I and World War II during this time. So European immigrants, poor black Americans in the South, moderately okay middle class black Americans, and of course the upper class black Americans up north. All of this is an amalgamation of what's going on in all of these big major cities. This is what's helping and pushing and forging the creation of black American ghettos. And this is the reason why it's important to not center white people in our narratives, because you won't learn that. You won't learn that 2,000 people per month were flooding these different cities and the current residents could not cope. They could not cope at all. As a matter of fact, they wanted the shit to stop. They wanted people to stop. You saw primary source of them speaking like, yo, we can't deal with this. 2,000 people a month. Every 30 days is 2,000 more people coming from down south. How are we going to accommodate all of these people? Because it is that's the reason why they're having this issues, because they are automatically taking responsibility for them. They already know that, yo, y'all gonna be coming here with low education, no jobs, no money, all of this other stuff. And I know the crackers is gonna look at y'all the same way they look at us. It doesn't matter. They're not gonna make a differentiation between you and I. So automatically, inherently, I have to take responsibilities for these people. Like, we have to be responsible for these people. And that's where those cartoons that I showed y'all come in. They created those cartoons for the black Southerners who did not have the same levels of social etiquette that they had. It's not to say that they didn't have any etiquette at all, but it was important to be like, yo, listen, we don't wear our bonnets and our stocking caps in the street. We don't eat on the bus. We're not loud in the movie theater. We're not, cursing out, people in the street. We're not fighting in the street. We're not doing any of that. We talk to our kids a particular way. We raise them a particular way, like letting them know the lay of the land. Like, however it was going down in Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, North Carolina, you know what I'm saying, Louisiana, that's totally your right. That's your culture or whatever it is. But this is what we're doing in Minneapolis. This is what we're doing in Indianapolis. This is what we're doing in Chicago. This is what we're doing in Detroit. This is what we're doing in Harlem. So again, those culture clashes. So it wasn't just class. It was also culture. Now, I will say, in defense of Southern culture, Southern black American culture was big on self-sufficiency. Southern black culture was big on self-reliance. Southern black culture was more about agriculture, vocation, industrial work, things like that, to where you'll see a lot more Black American towns being created throughout the South. Your Eatonville, Florida's, your Boley, Oklahoma, which all throughout Oklahoma. We're talking dozens of towns and cities in Oklahoma. So again, the work ethic is super, super high in the South. The quality of life, or how they are looking at the quality of life, is much different, of course. But they know how to grow their own foods. They know how to build their own homes. They know how to, stitch and sew their own clothes. So they have those skills. It's just that when it comes down to, like, we chew tobacco or some shit, so we're gonna spit the tobacco on the sidewalk. That's not necessarily what they were doing up north. Now, on the other side, when it comes to the northern culture, of course, you're going to have a higher levels of higher education, being able to get along with white people because they are in a tolerable number. Like, there's going to be some beneficial differences as well as it pertains to northern culture. But when I talk about the ancestral Black American ethos, it's largely forged in the South. I mean, 90% of Black Americans lived in the South for generations. So I think even to this very day in 2025, I think 55% of Black Americans still live in the South. So the majority of Black Americans still live in the South. You feel me? So that was that was also a part of it. So let's see what else we got here. Go to the archives. The archives was closed the other night, man. I was so mad. So I was looking up social clubs and stuff like that, and I wanted to see if I had any advertisements that I could look at and stuff like that. As you can see, the primary sources laid out there: the Washington Tribune, Washington D.C., 1934. Let's see what we got. Yep. Wow, look at this. This is better than I thought. So, this is going to be a list of Black clubs, social clubs. Okay. So we got the Entree New Social Club. Let's see. Mrs. Irene Meredith was hostess to the Entree New Social Club at its regular meeting Wednesday evening at her residence, 1816 New Jersey Ave, Northwest. Yo, I am not going to hold you, yo. I'm not going to hold you. The way, like, people's address was just a part of their name, and it's a part of, like, what they will report to the public is so funny. Whenever I saw people like this, like Miss Irene Meredith, you got to give her address to know that she's represented. Now, of course, it's not the 21st century at this time, and so most of the people who are going to be reading this paper are going to be her neighbors, people that are part of her community, and stuff like that. And I just found that super interesting. Like their addresses was just like, yeah, of course, she lives at 816 New Jersey Avenue, Northwest. You know what I'm saying? Another thing when it came down to these social clubs, Another thing when it came down to these social clubs is a lot of them took place in the crib. Like, you'll have some halls and stuff like that that were, created, but it was largely in these people's houses. Okay, so let's see. Plans were made at this time for a whist tournament and dance to be held in the near future. Guests of the evening were Miss Cola Meredith, Mrs. Nettie Miles, and Miss Elizabeth Thomas. Members present were Elizabeth Hawkins, President, Lillian Cox, Vice President, Sadie W. Heyman, Secretary, Mary Townsend, Treasurer, Betty Lyles, Reporter, and Alice Robinson, Hostess. Okay. The Apple Blossom Bridge Club. Okay. The Apple Blossom Bridge Club met at the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Edward Showman. Shout out to that too. When it came down to a lot of identifiers and stuff like that, I know the feminists today would, call this misogyny or patriarchy or whatever the fuck. But, after a woman was married, like, she was just like Mrs. Dude's name, last name. So, and this is Mr. and Mrs. Edward Showman. But anyway, 239 57th Street Northeast. Last Wednesday evening, plans were laid at this time for a one-night cabaret to be held Thursday, May 24th at the Elks Rest in Fairmont Heights, Maryland. So again, you'll have different fraternal orders and fraternities and secret societies. There were plenty of Black American secret societies, and so you're going to see them going to these different lodges and having their events as well. The Elks are like one of the bigger lodges throughout Black American history. They always held a bunch of events and stuff like that. So they would go to these different halls, have these different conversations, and have these different events and stuff like that. It was super dope. Let's see. After the brief business session had concluded, cards was played and a repast served by the host. See, I haven't even thought about a repast being like served outside of a funeral setting or a funeral context. The next meeting of the club will be held at the home of Mrs. E. Tolson, 1918 17th Street Northwest. So what else? We got the Avalon Whist Club was entertained last week by its vice president, C.A. Steptoe, at his residence, 1540 1st Street Northwest. Guest present included Mrs. Nettie Miles. She was just at the first one, so she's mixy. Okay, Nettie Miles is mixy. She liked to be a part. Okay, present daughter ruler of Columbia Temple. So again, this is another fraternity. Okay, sorority. Now I'm not talking about D9. Okay, I'm not gonna say before D9 because this is 1934 and the D9 started being created in the early 20th century. However, this was not the Divine Nine, Black fraternities that like your AKAs and your Omegas and your Alphas, your Kappas and all of them. Like, nah, these are separate fraternal orders. Okay, these are fraternal orders, usually of the lineage of Freemasonry. Prince Hall Freemasonry is going to be the first Black Freemason that you're going to see in America. So a lot of them took the initiative from Prince Hall's legacy and pushed it forward into the 20th century. Elizabeth Hawkins, she was there. Sarah Steptoe, president of the Optimistic Club, and boom, going right to the next one. The Optimistic Club entertained its friends with an evening in Paris. So that was the theme. I give you Paris in springtime. You know what I'm saying? Last Monday evening, 1527 9th Street Northwest, clubs represented were the Entre Nous, Fantastic, Avalons, Pioneers, Carnation, Pleasure Hour, okay, Curios Union Social Club number 1, and the John Quills. So I say all of that, or show all of that to say that these social clubs were extremely important among the Black American elite all throughout the 20th century, for sure. So let me go back to what I searched previously, because I did want to touch on that elite thing. Okay. See how long I've been talking about episode 5, chat? Episode 5, I've been talking about episode 5 since January. Yo. I've been wanting to get y'all this episode for basically a year now. It took me like so long to research it and stuff like that. And it's very important that you guys see it. So yeah, here we go. I think Nikki, is the one who, Dr. Nikki, she was telling me about this, and she asked me about it. She was like, sorority and fraternity members run Jack and Jill, and I believe still hold debutante balls. Is that remnant of that tradition? And I was like, absolutely. Jack and Jill was just one of the many exclusive social clubs created for Black elite youth. Now, you've seen the ones that was created for the adults. And so they created junior auxiliaries of the clubs their parents were members of as well. Many of them met their future spouses here. They still go on to this day. And so this is, I think, particularly important. One of the conversations that me and my guy Steph was having, about just the state of Black America and how everybody can't go, cultural differences, and all of these different things. And it's like the Black elite, you know, back in the day, they had arranged marriages. And it wasn't arranged marriages in the sense that you think of when you hear about like maybe foreign countries and stuff like that, and or like your Muslim countries and things like that. No, it was still American, still Black American culturally, but the way they did it was, and I'm not disparaging Muslim and arranged marriages, like that's their culture, but the way that Black Americans did it was that they raised their kids around each other because they didn't want their kids dating any riffraff. I'm just gonna be totally honest with you. As you can see, the Black American elite didn't really want to have anything to do with the lower classes of Black America. So when it comes to their children, they wanted to make sure that their children stayed far away from the riffraff. That was like the number one thing. So they would keep them, keep them occupied and busy with productive things to do. They'll have them learn musical instruments. They'll have them, have these different recreational skills that wouldn't necessarily be occupied by lower classes of people, like golf and tennis and what is it, croquet or something like that. Like all of these different, lawn games and different things like that. It wasn't so much basketball and football. It was more so like I said, tennis and things like that. Tennis and golf were big. And I ain't gonna lie, my millionaire friends, shout out to my man Xavier, like he go to the golf course all of the time. So that legacy still lives on to this day. You dig what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that lower classes don't go to the golf. I mean, Top Golf is a thing, but when it comes down to like the exclusive country clubs and the golf clubs and stuff like that, that's where a lot of Black American elite come from. So Black American elite had arranged marriages, and the way that they did it was they would raise their sons and daughters around each other, socialize them from a very young age. So we're talking elementary school age, going into middle school, going into high school, and by the time they got to college and graduated, they were pretty much like set for life. They come from the backgrounds that they come from. They're trustworthy, right? Because they grew up amongst each other, and the families themselves could be integral in their marriage, in the sense of like, hey, listen, your son is marrying my daughter, let's combine businesses. That's what they would do. Like they would combine assets. So if I owned a shoe shop and you owned a factory, we would come together, merge the assets, and then you would start manufacturing shoes for my store, and then we would share employees, share customers, what have you. And it's based upon us bringing our kids together. And it wasn't one of those situations where they were forced to do it or anything like that, because you were socialized around these people. So if it wasn't boy one or girl one, it would more than likely just be girl two, boy two, or whatever it is, because it's like, this is your people. This is your tribe. You've been raised around these different people. So let's check the chat. That looks like spam. Were there people in high society who weren't in any secret societies? Nah, not really. Unless they were new. Unless they just got there, they were new money and stuff like that. New money had an issue getting into these clubs. I'm not gonna hold you. They had an issue getting into these clubs because they didn't have the pedigree. Money wasn't enough. You needed to have the pedigree to get into these clubs. So you may have one that was a little bit more lenient on membership, a little bit more lenient on being able to have you in, but they probably charge you a little bit more as far as your membership fees and stuff like that. They had to fill you out because a lot of these people were grandfathered in. Their parents were a part of these clubs. They just grew up in them. Just like I was talking about, they created They created junior auxiliaries of these clubs. So they grew up in their own child, social clubs and stuff like that. Let's see. Next one says, Cliff says, did any of these elite clubs specialize in the focus of resolving community housing developments and ownership? No. Well, they weren't worried about anything that wasn't about them. So they had charitable organizations, like I said, the literary societies and stuff like that. They would care about the poor. I don't want y'all to think that the elite didn't give a single fuck about the poor, but it was more so about making sure that they look good while taking care or taking interest in the poor. So when you're saying resolving community housing developments and ownership, they already own their homes. Mostly people didn't rent and stuff like that. So when we're talking about like the other side of the city where the poor people were living and all of that, like we're gonna go over there, we're gonna lend a hand, we're gonna, do what we can, but it's definitely like, I'm gonna put gloves on. Do y'all remember that video of Blue Ivy feeding the poor and she was like this the whole time? Like that's the type of energy like that was the type of energy that they were given when they came over there. As a matter of fact, in Gatewood's book, he talks about that the people, so these northern elite went down to the south. I think they went to Tennessee. Okay, let me see if I can find it in the book. 1 second. So they went down to Tennessee and they was like treating them like pure shit, and they were supposed to be helping them. You feel me? So let's see. I think it was Tennessee. Gotta borrow the book. Boom, boom, boom. I knew I shouldn't have typed it before. Tennessee. 23 results. I remember that I knew I'm like 90% sure that it was in Tennessee. A Negro resident in Knoxville convinced that refined and cultured blacks suffer primarily because of the activities of their lower class brethren. No, not that one. But there was a story. It was a story where they went to Tennessee, and I'll get to the chat in just a second. But I know it was it this one? Gotta zoom in on the thing. A free man of color from Tennessee who traveled extensively into antebellum America and was in New Orleans on the eve of the Civil War, claimed that such people, quote, enjoyed more privileges and were more respected by their white neighbors than other cities in the United States. No, that's not it. But anyway, the story is in this book. I'm sure of it. That they went down there to try to help, you feel me, black Americans, and they were like just looking down on them the whole time, and it really didn't help a motherfucking thing. They was just shitting on them for real. So yeah. So these Jack and Jill programs and stuff like that, we'll see. So let's see. What else the chat got to say? My boy Rashad, man, shout out. Fist in the air for my brother Rashad. He asked me, do I believe in secret societies? Hell yeah, I believe in secret societies. Hell yeah. I 100% believe them. We need them shits, man. You know what I'm saying? We need them. At the end of the day, I think that it has a benefit, not only to the members of the secret society, but if they're going to actually be, pushing for, the advancement of black Americans and shit like that and doing shit from the shadows, I'm with that shit. Because one of the strategies that you need subversion. Like you need the stratagem of subversion. And one of the ways you can do that is if you put on let's just say that you have a movement. You have a movement and you created it about 10 years ago. And this movement is, for the betterment of everybody. Black Americans, white Americans, and all this other stuff. Let's just say you called it Hotep Nation, right? And in the back of Hotep Nation, there's a secret society of a bunch of black men in cloaks and robes and and they have these different beliefs, and they want to be able to help push those beliefs via shows on YouTube and Kick You know what I'm saying? Content creators and stuff like that. And, you use this content to be able to influence your constituency and influence the masses and shit without having to be, on Front Street. You would use these different shows and different content pieces and stuff like that as a way to, get people to understand their ideologies and shit. But there's a small consortium of black men who are running the entire show. Yeah, like hypothetically, of course, if that were to happen, you feel me? I think that would be beneficial. Same thing with you, Rashad. Like if you had, not if you have your movement, right? TOTN, and then in the back of that movement, it's like 4 or 5, no more than 10 of y'all who are able to, marionette the whole situation, puppeteer the whole situation, and being able to, push your agenda. All I'm saying is that it works for everybody. I haven't seen a single race, ethnicity, group, culture of people that this didn't work for. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, I think secret societies are extremely important. Extremely important. Let's see what we got. He says you should read about the Pacific Union Club. They're super weird. The Pacific Union Club, is that a black club? It doesn't sound like it. Let's see. Are they not? Okay. Look at Reddit being nosy. It's a bunch of rich white men. Oh yeah, we're not interested in that, man. It's Hotep history, nigga. Shit, there's a secret society in downtown Philly. You feel me? So yeah, I'm 1000% for the secret societies, bro. Some things the masses doesn't need to know. We're talking about the American masses at that, bro. Like, come on, son. Like, come on. Let's be real. Let's be real. So let's go through the pictures. So these are the debutante balls and stuff like that, where young ladies and young men would make their debuts. You feel me? And it's so much better. Imagine as a parent, like for a fact that your daughter or your son is going to choose right because they were raised inside of a culture that was doing this every year or every month or whatever, however frequent these balls were happening, Paul. So it's like, it's very important. Look at this. Look at this. Upstanding black men and women, young ladies, young men. You dig what I'm saying? I think this is dope. I have absolutely zero problems with this. Let's see. Cliff says, I think that's why our generation is so big on real estate planning and better multifamily development resolutions. Real big down here in H-Town. Agriculture design plans. Absolutely. I've seen so many different compounds and so many different family, they'll put 3 or 4 houses on 5 acres to be able to keep the family together and grow that land and be able to pass that land down, create trusts so that the real estate is owned by the trust instead of any individual. They will create an LLC to be the trustee of that trust. Just financial instruments that they're using to make sure that they're securing their generational wealth. You dig what I'm saying? So life insurance policies out the wazoo. You feel me? That's like big for them because the minute that you die, fam, that's 6-7 figures. You feel me? I know that it's not to brag or nothing like that, but like I had $1 million life insurance policy on me since I was like in my 20s and shit. So my daughter gonna be Gucci. Now don't get me wrong, my daughter's only 20 years younger than me. So of course when I'm 80, she'll be 60. So of course she'll be an older woman as well, cause I don't plan on dying no time soon, chat. You feel me? That's why I work out every day. So she'll be older, but my next crop of kids, I'm 35, 36, 37 years older than them, damn near twice the distance. So, by the time I'm 90 or whatever, they'll still just be in their 40s and 50s. So it's like they'll have those assets to rock off of, and then boom, you should be having life insurance policies for your kids and your grandkids and stuff like that. Like that's how generational wealth is built and maintained and sustained. Most generational wealth is squandered by the grandchildren. 90% of generational wealth is squandered by your grandchildren. So if you made $100 million, boom, $250 million, boom, pass it down to your youths. Pass it down to your youth them, you feel me? You will then they'll spend a good chunk of it, and then they pass down what's left of it to their kids, and they gonna fuck it off. They gonna fuck it off. So the best way to do that is always have proper estate planning, always have family financial meetings, and then having these assets owned by entities instead of individuals. Entities over individuals, because you leave it to one family member, something happened to them, and they fall out with another family member or some shit, and it's all in disarray. But if you have a trust, and then the trust is owned by the LLC, and then the trustee is an LLC, you'll be able to navigate this much better. And just be specific in your wills, ladies and gentlemen. Be specific. Who are you leaving what to? How are you leaving it to them? And what increments are you going to give it to them? And be as specific in your language as possible, because I'm telling you, if you do what you're supposed to do while you're living, and you do amass a nice little small fortune for yourself while you're alive, your children, your nieces, your nephews, whoever it is, they're going to be fighting over your wealth. Period. I've never seen a family that's impervious to this shit. I don't give a fuck how well they got along, how much they loved each other. Once it's 6, 7, 8 figures on the line, and you not there to regulate that shit, please understand that they're going to be fighting. So please make sure you're as specific as possible in your will and testament. Make sure you're specific as possible in how you're going to allocate these assets to them, and how you're going to distribute it to them over however long. It's going to be very important. Okay? So it's a little lesson on legacy there for you guys. So this is the last photo of the slide. You feel me? So this is, a lot of these people found their husbands and found their wives just growing up with them. You feel me? So that's important. It's important for you guys to understand why, or how, wealth is built. But I did want to find that social club. Let me see if I want to show you that picture. No, we already talked about SD Redmond this week. Well, shout out to the shooting club. We talked about that as well. Boom, 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 boom. Oh yeah, no. Matter of fact, we can do media. It's better than just looking at the tweets. Cause it was this cartoon that I wanted to show y'all. Those how they be having the political cartoons and stuff like that. Yeah, no. I know it was something that I can search, cause I tweeted about it, and I thought it was super dope. But yeah, it was a older lady from the old guard. You can tell by the way she was dressed, and a younger black man at the door. Older black lady, younger black man at the door, and he was trying to come into the elite club, and she was like, the idea of you being able to be a member of our elite club is absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't have it at all. And that's largely what they were on. You dig? So, what else we got? Oh, you know what? I did want to show y'all how I do some research. But we're going to go to the archives in just a second. Let's see what else we got. We got the social clubs. So, the archives switched up a little bit. They switched up a little bit in the way that you search. Actually, they made it a little bit easier. I told y'all that I had to handpick all 300 Black American newspapers. Now they just have the ethnicity tab. So I really, really appreciate that. Just go to African American, and all of the results are going to be coming from Black American newspapers. So I appreciate that. So, let's see. Negro. You're going to have to put Negro a lot in these. So Negro Elite. Let's see what comes up. And this is where I go. This is the archives, y'all. This is where I spend most of my days. Will Smith spent most of his days on the playground in West Philly. I spend most of my days in the archives. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let's go here. Let's go to this one. 1961, Gary, Indiana. The Gary American. Okay. Says King's leadership frightens Negro elite. Ooh, what's this? Are they talking about Dr. Martin Luther King? Yeah, they are. Let's see. New York. Reverend Martin Luther King has reluctantly become the leader of a revolution which is frightening some of the most influential members of the Negro community, says James Baldwin, noted author. This is because, unlike most Negro leaders who tell the white people to speed up integration but urge Negroes to be patient, Reverend King speaks with the same voice to both races, writes Mr. Baldwin in an article in the February issue of Harper's Magazine. The fact that King really loves the people to be represent, excuse me, quote, the fact that King really loves the people he represents, loves the people he represents, and has therefore no hidden interior need to hate the white people who oppose him, has had and will, I think, continue to have the most far-reaching and unpredictable repercussions on our racial situation, says Baldwin. Not like any preacher. In the Harper's Magazine piece titled The Dangerous Road Before Martin Luther King, Baldwin believes that Reverend King is, quote, not like any preacher I have ever met before. He is immediately and tremendously winning. There is no other word for it. Baldwin spent days with Reverend King in the South, seeing him in social situations, attending services at his church. It was at a church service that Baldwin witnessed the real effect of Reverend King on Negroes. He writes, quote, until Montgomery, the Negro church, which has always been the place where protest and condemnation could be most vividly articulated, also operated as a kind of sanctuary. Well, yeah, I would thought that would be the first thing. The minister who spoke could not hope to affect any objective change in the lives of his hearers, and the people did not expect him to. All they came to find, and all that he could give them, was the sustenance for another day's journey. Now, King could certainly give his congregation that, but he could also give them something more than that, and he had. Okay. It is true that it was they who had begun the struggle of which he was now the symbol and the leader. It is true that it had taken all of their insistence to overcome in him a grave reluctance to stand where he now stood. But it's also true, and it does not happen often, that once he had accepted the place they had prepared for him, their struggle became absolutely indistinguishable from his own and took over and controlled his life. He suffered with them, and thus he helped them to suffer. That's interesting. So yeah, I remember when it came down to the initial reaction to Martin Luther King. You feel me? Rashad, shut up. Talk about some James. Anime Magna fan says we need to get back to this existence. Arranged marriages are super efficient. I ain't gonna hold you, bro. I'm with it. And I'm not against it at all. James Baldwin, a hater. So James Baldwin was a peculiar fellow. I'm not gonna sit here and talk so deeply about it because I didn't study him much. I knew that he was, very, very liberal in his approach and stuff like that. But it wasn't that he was hating. He was basically he was praising him and just he was being a little bit more objective and stuff like that. But James Baldwin, he was, I'm just be honest with y'all, Chad. I ain't really like James Baldwin's style. Shout out to him. I know he was a great poet and writer and all of that stuff. But I wasn't really a big fan of James Baldwin like that. And then when he did that whole back and forth with Nikki Giovanni and stuff like that, with the whole "I need to lie to you," the white man and all this other stuff, I was like, it was I couldn't deal with that. Couldn't deal with that at all. Let's see. Let's move on. So yeah, but y'all was saying, bringing arranged marriages back, like, of course, who wouldn't? Like, honestly, the only people, because when me and Steph was talking about, we was talking about it on the timeline. Let's see. They were saying like, no, we don't want that anymore. And it's like, yo, a lot of y'all, like nobody's trying to, marry your kid. Be like, come on, son, look where you come from. Like, this is it's a level of elitism that comes along with this. But without the elitism, just being speaking objectively, I think I don't see no problem with it. Socializing your kids and stuff like that. But schools for Negroes only. Let's see, what is this depicting? 1960. Problems in segregated South. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, a lot of the newspapers during the 60s, they wasn't, it was a lot more, they were for the integration. And the reason why I be so like about the integration part, because like there is a difference between integration and desegregation. I know a lot of people like to make them, identical. They're synonymous, obviously, but there is a difference. Desegregation just means there's no restriction on movement. Who's this? Left or right, Lenora Tate, Spelman, Lonnie King, Morehouse, Mrs. King, an unidentified Spelman student, and Gwendolyn Harris. Spelman take time out for a relaxed discussion during last week's nationwide student sit-in conference held Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the campuses of the Atlanta University Center. Okay. Very beautiful women. Speaking of beautiful women, Chad, let me show y'all something. I tweeted about this a little while ago, but I gotta show y'all this woman. Tariq Nasheed, we were shitting on Tariq Nasheed. But look at this woman. Real talk, Chad. Look at this woman. Is this not a gorgeous woman, Chad? Like, this is classic beauty right here. You feel me? And her quote is beautiful. It says, "To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die." I don't even know her name. I couldn't find her name anywhere. But this is that classic beauty that we was talking about, fam. The classic beauty that we was talking about. And yeah, like, shout out to the ancestors, man. Shout out to the ancestors. This was a young elite woman. You could tell that she was elite by the jewelry. Okay, you could tell by the jewelry, the bracelet, the necklace, the earrings, the hairstyle, the dress. You could tell that she came from money. You feel me? You could tell, like, you can see how, you can see the femininity, you can see the gracefulness and the stuff. Like yeah, just like I'm sitting there reading I'm reading anime mangas comment like it's my words. But yeah, absolutely feminine, graceful, sophisticated. Like, you feel me? You want to make sure that you were, like, if this was your daughter, you want to make sure that you had your hands in who she marries as much as you could, because you want to make sure that she was properly taken care of. She remind me of somebody too that I know. She do. But yeah, I had to show y'all this. All right. What else we got in the bookmarks, man? All right, what else we got? Yeah, I forgot to shit on that person. So yeah, we'll get into that video another time. Tariq Nasheed was mad at us in 2018 because we was talking shit on him. He was talking shit on us. You know what I'm saying? He was talking shit on us for the shit that we was saying. He tried to call my mans a molester or some crazy shit, and just a bunch of lies. But yeah, we was wilding. This is another video from DC. As you can see, your president back there giving it up crazy. Big middle fingers and all of that shit. We was wilding, sir. We was big wilding. Shout out to us, man. We was cooking. We was wilding. Shout out to my boy HJ. Shout out to my man Carl. We was tearing up DC, man. We had a great time, son. I had my fire-ass peacoat. Yeah, it was fire. Tariq Nasheed, he ain't never fucked with us. I don't give a fuck, though. You know what I'm saying? Real niggas fuck with me, and I don't give a fuck who don't. You feel me? So yeah, man. The black elite. We finally got the 3,900 followers. Shout out to y'all. And yo, I'm telling you, I'm about to jack Hotep HJ Ho style. I'm about to get a soundboard too. I'm about to get a soundboard. Like I already got the sound bites that I want to use. My son Rashad, I was in a space with him. I told y'all this before in the chat. Like this nigga, we was talking about this nigga Drake and the UK shit that he said. And I was like, niggas ain't outraged. And he was like, nah, fuck that Hotep. I'm outraged. I need that as a soundbite. I need that as a soundbite for my stream, son. Cause I be outraged on this motherfucker. I be outraged on that motherfucker. But hit me with some questions. Talk to me, chat. Hit me with some more questions, chat. I'm gonna be looking for more stuff while y'all thinking of y'all questions. We in the archives tonight. Finally got the archives back up. I'm so happy to see it. So happy to see it. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad you guys came through. Glad you guys came through. Let's see. Let me know who want to be a moderator too. I thought Sammy was gonna come through, but I think Sammy he just be since he subscribed to the YouTube, I think he just be looking at the notification. I gotta let Sammy know that we on kick now. You feel me? We on kick now. Let's see what else we got in the archives. White man jailed for blasphemy. What happened? What the white man do? I'm definitely about to use this as a tweet though. White man jailed for blasphemy is a great screenshot. I'm gonna use that as a meme. This is good. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. The ancestors be giving great meme material. That black crackers and clown shit. Let's see. White man jailed for blasphemy. Negro lawyer will defend atheist jailed for blaspheming. Of course, a nigga is involved. Let's see. Race cooperate. Excuse me. Race co-op in Nashville. Flood relief. What year is this? 1927. Look, black people and white people working together for flood relief. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Let's see. Negro lawyer will defend atheists jailed for blaspheming. See, we used to be a proper country. Oh wait, this is in Canada, so forget it. Forget it. We'll tap in because it's North America. Shout out to my brother Dash. Bro. Shout out to my bro Dash. Toronto, Canada. Worldwide interest in the ranks of agnostics and unbelievers has been aroused in the arrest of Ernest V. Sterry, self-confessed atheist, as was his quote mother before him. And damn, his mom's was an atheist. This is in 1927, so that means your mom's was an atheist in the 19th century. God damn, she hated God. Nah, Bert, I don't got a mod, man. I had all this spam in my shit from the bots. I don't even know how to elect a mod. Do I just click y'all shit and just make you a mod? Is that how that works? Oh wait, I'm watching this shit on my phone from my other account, so I'm not even logged into Hotep History on my phone. Let's see. His mom's was an atheist. Okay, an editor of the newly established Christian Inquirer. Wait, what? Who has been charged by the Crown with uttering blasphemous, indecent, and profane libel of and concerning the Holy Scripture and the Christian religion. Damn. Sterry has been taken into custody under a provision of the criminal statutes which has only been invoked on 2 other occasions in the history of British law, namely the celebrated cases of Bradlaugh and Pooley and of Foot in London. These are such English last names. Jesus. In 1883, in connection with the publication of the famous free thinker of that time. When Sterry appeared in police court recently and was granted a remand of 1 week, he was represented by E. Lionel Cross, Negro lawyer. He is solicitor for the Rationalist Society of Canada, which body has volunteered to, quote, back the editor of the Christian Inquirer to the limit. One passage of his writing cited was, quote, read your Bible and you will find in it hundreds of passages relative to the divine being, which any moral and honest man would be ashamed to have appended to his character. Damn. How are you? Have you researched? She hated God because her man's left her. That's crazy. Cliff says, have you researched any info on Prairie View University? Prairie View University. Why does that sound familiar? Why does that sound familiar? Did we talk about that? Damn, my fingers. All right. What is going on with me? There we go. Prairie View. Okay. Prairie View University. Did we talk about this or something? Let's do history. It's hard for me to type because I got my phone and my fan right next to my keyboard, chat. I'm a very proficient typer. Let's go to images and see what we're dealing with. Okay. Matter of fact, fuck Google. Let's go to Prairie View in the archives. Prairie View. I'm so glad I could play music on Kick, bro. So glad. I might start every stream with a spitter song. Let's see. Prairie View. Yeah, I'll make sure I get to the bottom of the AI bots and all of that weird shit, bro. Like, let's see what Prairie View got for us. I guess we go to this one. Let's see. So All Texas Conference selections by Mr. Fred T. Long, athletic drill. Okay, so that's football. What's this comic? Amos Holcomb. Sounds. Hey, what are you doing with them teaspoons in your pocket? On what? Them's doctor's orders, you big soup spiller. Come back here with them spoons. Doctor's orders? What do you mean, doctor's orders? The doctor told me to take 2 teaspoons. The doctor told me to take 2 teaspoons after every meal. See, early 1900s humor. So yeah, we're getting a lot of sports from Prairie View. Cliff, why did you ask me about Prairie View, beloved? What's going on with Prairie View? Oh yeah. Wait, what about cursing? I was confused, but I figured you can't. You could curse as a motherfucker. Like, yo, you could do whatever you want on Kick, B. That's why I came over here. There ain't no censorship over here. I could actually say the words that actually fucking. Okay, so these is football players at Fisk. Fitch stays up nights so he can get sleepy. What the hell? Fetchit stays up nights so he can. Stephen Fetchit, movie actor, told a jury here Tuesday he had to stay up nights in order to get sleepy so he could play his part in the film the next day. Fetchit was arrested for being drunk, and the officer testified that the comedian also staggered. Quote, I stay up every night so I'll be sleepy the next day. It was 3 a.m. when I was arrested, and I was sleepy then, said Fetchit. And then the screen star fell fast asleep in the courtroom and had to be awakened to be told the jury had acquitted him. Fire. You know what I'm saying? We could curse in this motherfucker. That's a fact, Cindy. We could curse. We could do whatever we want over here and Kick. Matter of fact, let's play some music. Give me a what's a good song? A song that I never heard, but it's gonna be a vibe. You can keep your fucking slow jams. We're not doing that. It's 10 p.m. I'm not trying to fall asleep listening to no motherfucking slow jams. You know what I'm saying? Hit me with some music. I might play some Rashad shit. Rashad, give me a song, bro. Rashad, give me one of your songs, bro. Let's play some County Boy. You feel me? Let's listen to some County Boy. I'm about to go to YouTube and look my son up. Listen to my bro on here. Joey did drop a new album. How that shit sounding? Chat? I know HJ did a whole stream on the nigga. He trying to hit us with some Hotep. County Boy. Damn, nigga, you wanted us to remember that whole shit? County Boy Solo. Alright, this song better be fire. I ain't gonna lie. Every song that I heard from my son, Rashad, has been dope. Let's see, I fuck with Kick. This nigga got the J1 diss on this motherfucker. Oh, man, I bet he ain't respond. Yo, son, Rashad, quiet as kept, and I had balled you up, but I ain't recorded. I was like, nah, I'm cool. I felt like Carmelo, son. I felt like Carmelo with the ball, like, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I spared my brother, because then he would have fucking responded, and now we on the motherfucking timeline having a rap battle and shit, and I just wanted to dish you. I just wanted to dish you one time, bro, but I knew you wasn't going to let up, so I was like, man, fuck it. He got it. But I was a little, I understand J1 in his position, not one to, where the fuck is the Hope song at, bro? Like, CC? Because I'm looking at it on the next page, because I'm just going to play it. Is it this right here? Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I told my nigga Collins that oh, this shit big. Like some intro shit.
Okay, hold on. My son got the Just Blaze swag. All right. He got the Just Blaze.
He did.
Just Blaze?
Yeah. Couple of hundred a week, I'm working a job, I feel like I failed. Bitch that I love, tell me she can't support rapping, I'm going to hell. Had it lost homies, I swore that I killed for, probably still do it. Fuck it, that's truly. If I told you I love you, I meant it truly. How the fuck they may listen, they don't include me. I've been riding circle around these niggas like fuck it's a cup. My blessings are coming to butt.
Yeah, I'm not battling this nigga, dog. I'm not battling this nigga, bro. I swear to God. This nigga rap like this towards me, dissing me, bro. I might have to just shoot this nigga. I ain't about to do it. It's like, yo, just put your fists up, my nigga. Fight me. You're not about to rap like this to me, nigga. Nah. This nigga snapping in the first goddamn. Yo, how many bars is that, my nigga? I ain't got time. My nigga going off in this motherfucker, so let me will his shit back. He going fucking crazy. Jesus.
Yeah. Couple of hundred a week, I'm working a job, I feel like I failed. Bitch that I love, tell me she can't support rapping, I'm going to hell. Had it lost homies, I swore that I killed for, probably still do it. Fuck it, that's truly. If I told you I love you, I meant it truly. How the fuck they may listen, they don't include me. I've been riding circle around these niggas like fuck it's a cup. My blessings are coming in abundance. Lesson I learned, here we grounded, approaching the summit. How does the tell the jump? Praying the low down crash out. I did all this without a deal. If I'm solid, I need me a max now. I need the vest to pass down. Can't have my kids' ass out. Blessed where tears rain down. Can't even feel pain now. I was hungry, these niggas was running the city, litty, and they still flamed out. It's funny, I always tell you I'm my little sister, it don't feel the same now. It is what it is. How they got to it so I can do it, I'm touring to quit. Nothing can tell me, don't fall under pressure, my feet to the fire, I'm cool as a bitch. No limit love, she asked me who you would, told her it's us versus everybody. Send me a.
Alright, yeah. That was fire. That was fire. My nigga, I knew my nigga Rashad had balls. The nigga can rap. That nigga can 100% rap. You feel me? That nigga wanted to get his Hotep on. He wanted to be like, nah, let me show these niggas my range. You know what I'm saying? I don't just drink 40s and shit like that. I be talking that deep shit. There was this one joint that Rashad had dropped. I think it was called like Differences or some shit like that. That's my shit. You know what I'm saying? I think that shit was fire. I think it was. Is that the one he shot in the suburban projects? In the suburban, he recorded that in the suburban projects, where it's like suburban but still niggified and shit like that. Like it's still violence that go around in that motherfucker, but it look nice. That nigga Rashad, no, Rashad really rap like that. It's not the first time I heard him rap like that. You know what I'm saying? All right. Play one more spitter joint.
I love my nigga Cardi, you already know. I throw 100 in the gas tank. Split 20,000 in the gas, man. Oh, this that jet like Taylor gang. Hide up, boss niggas pulling strings. See, I can make it shake, or I could get your cake baked. Niggas set you straight. Pulling up, jet life written on the plates. House money on the rate, bought it just to rate. Drew Leo the keys, he done the figure eight. Niggas from New Orleans, we show out in the bay. Yeah. Fuck that bitch and give her back. I pull up and shit, they ask what's that. I'm on Front Street in the Maybach. You try to touch me, you get laid flat. In that 488, my nigga snack. In that 488, my nigga strap.
It's old as hell.
In that 488, I smoke that pack. I push that 488, I ain't scared to crash. I get two more just like it in the flash. I use them up and leave them in the trash. On the dance floor with the diamonds dancing. I'm in the section with your things dancing. VVS connect a chain reaction. You ever rode a jet, whole bitch, you looking at one. Throw 100 in the gas tank. Split 20,000 in the gas, man. This that jet life, Taylor gang. Hide up, boss nigga pulling strings. Yeah, I can make it shake, or I could get your cake baked. Nigga set you straight. Pulling up, jet life written on the plates. House money on the rate, bought it just to race. Drew Leo the keys, he done the figure eight. Yeah.
Nah, yo, that's what I'm saying. Nah, he ain't had to speed that shit up. That's how my son really rap. He got that, like, what can I say? Like, I don't want to say southern lyricist, because the nigga's a lyricist in all regions. It's just that it's a very southern style for sure. But it's a style like, so I'm not a huge Tory Lanez fan, but I know maybe 3 or 4 Tory Lanez songs, and one of them is when he did the joint with Meek Mill, Liddy Again. And when I be hearing Rashad sometimes, I'll be hearing like a mixture between like Tory Lanez and the JID nigga. Real talk, like if I like sonically, that's what he reminds me of. You know, but I think that because I used to be a rapper and shit like that. And I think that when it comes, Prairie View, it's just. So Cliff did respond to me in the chat. Hold on. It says, founded in 1876 on the Texas plantation northwest of Houston, home to tons of successful agriculture engineers, architects, and nursing grads. Okay, so that's what Prairie View was about. Because now in the archives, they're just talking about their sports. But yeah, I just encourage Rashad to like keep going to the studio and just making music, because that shit is. Like, I'll never try to pursue rap again, but I still bar a motherfucker up. I just finished writing some shit. Like, I think it's therapeutic. For sure. J. Cole, I can kind of see it. For sure. Hell yeah, man. And shout out to my nigga Rashad, man. Real talk. Watch them grow, things of that nature, brick by brick. My son got a podcast coming next month. Shout out to him. Got a co-host. You know what I mean? He put his foot in this shit, and I appreciate him. But yeah, now that I'm gonna kick us a little bit laid back, man. I'm not pressed and shit like that. I knew that I was gonna get a good 2 hour pieces of 2 hours worth of content off of this, but now. Let's see what else we got in the archives. Prairie View, that's a little bit too specific. Let's see what else we got here. Give me some keywords, y'all, that we can go into the archives about while I look for another song. I ain't gonna lie. This song been playing in my head all day. I gotta hear it. I haven't played it. Gots to play it. Why the fuck is YouTube looking like this? I don't know what the hell. Gots to be quicker than that. The song was on my mind. The song been on my mind, chat. Rashad, the archives stop at 1963, beloved. So the Black Panther, but you know what we can do? We can go to the actual Black Panther newspaper. Let's do that. I got you right here. Fucking classic. That's a fucking classic right there. That's my shit. Now we gotta do the spitter version.
He got a little bit of that.
We gotta do the
Wake
spitter
up.
version.
Life, you can turn me up some. Jet la 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 la. I ain't got no palm. And the beat up a little bit too. L. Nah, that's my man's here's in a Ferrari, she was there when I started. Roll with me when I wasn't sure where I was going. Saw a king in me, knew my crown was coming. Carried me like royalty, back when I had nothing. Now niggas stunting, and them angry fuckers grumpy. She be wanting to spend her bread to get them niggas whacked for me. I ain't tripping off them simpletons, honey. I think it's funny how your partners go to plotting, and then they be wanting to pop you. I keep my circle tight. Earth, wind, fire. My bitch, my weed, my lighter. Night rider, driving, music at a cool volume. I don't think the moon higher than us. If you ain't past the stars, then you right by one. Got a fresh party to death. Jet life and it's the set. Married to the mob, $25,000. Baby, that's not no dress, that's a gown. Look good on you, but it look way better on the ground. L. Here's in her Ferrari, she was there when I started. Roll with me when I wasn't sure where I was gone. L.
This is the Black Panther Party.
Here's in her Ferrari, she was there when I started. Roll with me when I wasn't. Here's in her Ferrari, she was there when I started. Never questioned me stepping in 4 in the morning. Respected my hustle, knew to get it, had to be gone. Wasn't right how I left her lonely, but this how it is, baby girl, when you choose a man that's hungry. Common sense to want somebody that wants some shit. I want all of this, whatever coming to me, and whatever they was gon' get. If they hating on me, fuck them niggas, that's just how I feel. Smoking that fully automatic with no safety on it, chill. Dangerous OG, medical labeled on it for real. Dress sharp, they like the tailor, take razors on me. Made the papers all about how I make papers, homie. A couple of ladies, I'm kinda player, don't let that phase ya. Roll another one, when we land, we'll be in Las Vegas. Call your homegirls, tell them you made it. Fuck that, fly your homegirls in, tell them you major. We made it. Life. La 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 la. Here's in her Ferrari, she was there when I started. Here's in her Ferrari, she was there when I started. Roll with me when I wasn't sure where I was going. Here's in her Ferrari, she was there when I.
Could have been anywhere in the world. She was there when I started. With me. Thank y'all for coming on out. As always, can't have the future without the present. Can't have the present without the past. We don't study the past to live in the past, but on our steps in the present. So we can positively affect our future. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, Hotep and Build, man. Hotep and Build. 100.